Thank you, Shubhangi. Let me thank Dr. Vikram Shetty for inviting me for giving this talk on AI systems in Corona, because AI system has been my passionate experience in the last 4 years. I've been working on various schemes of AI systems. In fact, I delivered a couple of lectures in MIT ADT. So I take this opportunity to thank Dr. Shetty, Dr. Shubhangi Joshi, as well as my dear friend Dr. Bapu Mangesh Karaji and Shivaji Karad. My introduction has been already given. I'm a surgeon by profession, but I have a fascination for technology. Therefore, if you go to my website, it proudly declares that technology can only solve the problems of the society. Now, this webinar, I'm giving it to all mechanical, electrical, computer engineers. And I want them to get sensitized about how AI system can help in Corona. And the details of those programs will be available on my website. In addition, all the references which I used will be available on this website, because within a time of 1 hour, it is impossible to cover everything. And my request to all of you is to think in that direction, that each problem, each solution in AI, which can improve the quality of life and quality of care of Corona as well as health, can give you a clue to start a startup. So instead of just completing your MTech degree or BTech degree, we should think of doing a startup programs in India, so that overall the nation becomes rich. I need to thank Mr. Ajit Deshpande, whose LinkedIn profile is there. He's a CEO of a company called Rises, and he has been working on AI system in radiology, and therefore a couple of his experiences I wanted to show. So I thought let him be here so that he can answer the questions. I came MIT for giving lecture, and then MIT School of Bioengineering, where I deliver similar lecture on artificial intelligence. So everywhere Corona is going. How are you? We feel rejected. So this was the question asked by wife of Superman to Superman. What are you doing something to fight Corona? And he said, I am doing it. And then staying home. So if you stay home safe, you are safe. So I think this is the message given by Superman. Basically, all these Corona type epidemics and pandemics have been there, and overall society globally has not been considering against what should be done. So this is a small TED talk by Bill Gates, where he says that we have never thought and taken into consideration, because the next outbreak, we are not ready. All the time, we are ready for nuclear holocaust, global catastrophe, but we never thought of what will happen if we have a corona epidemic. And this is a talk given in 2015. So how visionary he is.
A barrel like this down in our basement, filled with cans of food and water. When the nuclear attack came, we were supposed to go downstairs, hunker down, and eat out of that barrel. Today, the greatest risk of global catastrophe doesn't look like this. Instead, it looks like this. If anything kills over 10 million people in the next few decades, it's most likely to be a highly infectious virus rather than a war. Not missiles, but microbes. Now, part of the reason for this is that we've invested a huge amount in nuclear deterrence. But we've actually invested very little in a system to stop an epidemic. We're not ready for the next epidemic. Let's look at Ebola. I'm sure all of you read about it in the newspaper. Lots of tough challenges. I followed it.
So the gist of this talk was we are only prepared for wars. We are never prepared for an epidemic. We have hardly number of epidemiologists. We have hardly number of hospitals which can take care. We don't have any vision. And as a net result, the next thing that can happen is a similar viral epidemic will kill us. And this was a visionary statement he gave in 2015. And this is the one which is coming on our face. It's the corona. It started from Wuhan. We have a lot of problems calling it whether it originated from lab or all that. Anyway, it is our problem. It is globally killing everybody. There is a pandemic, and this is a virus. And we have to find out that what you called as the virus's vaccine can be created, and everybody is working on a spike glycoprotein. So we have several proteins on the viral surface, and we need to find out which protein can give better antibody, which can protect. Because the first thing that is happening in the viral vaccine area, because nobody noticed that everywhere in the in vitro model, monkey model, animal models, the vaccine is protecting. I think this is one of the biggest news. In HIV, we can never have a vaccine. So how the AI can help, just giving a classical example, there might be around 18,000 various proteins on the surface of a virus. And which one of them can produce maximum antibodies? And this is done by AI. I'll come down to that when the vaccine section. And I think this is more important. I hope you all know a virus is something which is non-living outside the cell. So it can stay up to say maybe 6 hours, 10 hours outside. But then once it is outside, it's killed. The moment it goes in the cell, it starts growing. And it's a very intelligent organism. I think this intelligence needs to be used in maybe marketing and manufacturing. That what it does is it captures the protein manufacturing mechanism. And therefore the mRNA, which transmit the message to start manufacturing a protein, it captures. And instead of a protein manufactured by the cell, it starts manufacturing viruses. That's why it grows so fast. So we need to discuss about role of AI in fighting COVID. AI, we have a lot of hopes. After the first talk, Watson address was winning a Jeopardy. Then it win the chess tournament. And then the maximum thing that was happening in AI was in image handling. And because this is one of the low hanging fruit. And image handling requires what is called a GPU. And because then we realized that the growth of AI was directly dependent upon growth of GPU. Now this is an NVIDIA chairman, who says the growth of GPU is getting faster and doesn't follow Moore's law. I was here, and then where they said there's a mural which says I am AI, and then even the T-shirt was available labeled as I am AI. Now AI is a combination of things. What is required is we need to understand. I hope I will be doing everything for you, that we need to understand how the IoTs are working, because everything is getting connected through IoT, and they are so growing that by 2020 there will be 7.8 billion IoTs, and all these IoTs are getting connected, and we are trying to do something more, and we have what's called Internet of Healthy Things, and IoTs would be from headsets and clothes and BP monitors, glucose monitors, and everything is available. And all these IoTs, we need to find out whether they can be used for corona, because at the end, the data will be coming from these IoTs and giving to the server and cloud, and then which we need to handle. And can we use? Now, this is an IoT used for thermal scanning on an airport, where you can't say have a gun and look at everybody. And then if it's a big crowd, you can, this IoT is another where aerial thermograph is done. And then obviously there are challenges, because all these IoTs, the data is not secure. Other thing which is becoming big way is variables, because variables and IoT both are giving a lot of scope in managing AI in healthcare. So there are a lot of say variables available. There's something called a scheme, which is a variable smart cloth, which can track your stress level, sleep quality, activity level, ECG, everything. Then this is called the BioSense, which can track your all data, heart rate, respiratory rate. But what is most important for us is we have a very suitable IoT called Respira Sense. Now this is one which is most useful because it's a wearable, and then if you want to differentiate a COVID pneumonia from non-COVID pneumonia, the first thing that happens is patients become breathless, and therefore such a wearable can follow and monitor a patient once he becomes positive, and once he has some signs. Then suppose he has no say cough there, he's not having any dyspnea, and therefore such a thing can be used, and then he can be monitored. Now there are variables which have created wonders in oncology, and then some of them is called deathomics, where a volatile gas can diagnose the levels of chest infection. Now variables are coming big way. You have variable on Apple Watch which can take ECG, and not only that, it can just ask you your position. My Apple Watch asked me, "Are you fallen down?" the moment I took a wrong step on playing tennis. So AI is coming in big way, AI in healthcare, and let us find out what are the various ways in which AI can help Corona. First, it can identify, track, and forecast outbreaks. That is one important thing which I'm going to discuss detail. It can help diagnose viruses. It can process healthcare claims. It can deliver the drugs, then robotic sterilization and all that. It can help in developing drugs. We have advanced fabric for protection. AI can identify non-clone plants of infected. Then we have chatbots and supercomputers. This whole thing coming in big way. Now, the main problem of all data today, at least now in Corona, is your tremendous amount of published papers. All these papers are available free in bigger journals, major journals, and then so much so that we get carried away. So we are not just fighting an epidemic, we are fighting an infodemic. So there is so much of information available that it is impossible for anybody. And therefore, this is the problem of big data. And before Corona also, the big data was the biggest problem, because big data itself is useless unless we put AI system. And therefore, the explosion of knowledge is beyond capacity of any intelligence. And therefore, we need to do something for big data analysis. That's why you require an AI. Now, I don't want to go into much detail because you're all engineering students, but then AI is defined as a machine with an intelligent behavior such as perception, reasoning, learning, communication, and ability to perform human tasks. Now, in medicine, what we require is beyond AI, because there's something between the lines, and that's what we call this artificial wisdom. And this is a software system which goes beyond, because the moment you see, we have a data, information, knowledge, wisdom cycle, and then data, information, knowledge can be with AI, but then beyond, it requires a wisdom, and therefore, this is a challenge for all of you, how to convert then AI system, knowledge system, to a wisdom system. And then we have three main paradigms: symbolic, statistical, sub-symbolic, and this concern with knowledge, perception, communication, reasoning, and planning. I'm not going to much detail, but then these are the three types: AI, machine learning, deep learning. This whole thing is known to you, and therefore machine learning is with IBM Watson, deep learning is AlphaGo, and natural speech recognition. And machine learning, there are several models available. We have what's called unsupervised machine learning, supervised machine learning, and I hope in MIT you might be all getting trained, because nowadays there is something called as a reinforcement learning, which is coming in big way, that is going to help us in AI. Then these are the machine learning algorithms. By and large, we use support vector machine or maybe CNN. And this is all details of deep learning, because deep learning is something which helps AI. Because in deep learning, what is required is input, and then there are hidden layers, and depending on the neural network, and depending upon the compositeness, then we have several hidden layers. At the end, it is an outcome. and therefore the features are there. And suppose it goes into a deep learning model, and then the moment it is more complicated, you have more deep layers. Now, what I am trying to show you is more and more things are being done in image handling, because it's a low hanging fruit. So image handling, what is required, I think everybody understands about this process. You are Tom, Jerry, and then through process data cleaning, we need to have output. And therefore, it's an image handling process, the data preparation, then we have images available, we have to integrate, clean, and then we have something called the feature engineering cycle, where we extract the features, and then they generate features, we create a model, and then whatever new images there, we need to extract and deploy, and then it can diagnose. So now we are going beyond, and explainable AI in healthcare coming in a big way, because with advantage over black box, AI, XAI is likely to become dominant algorithm in healthcare. And I think we are using this in RISES, where they are doing on AI. I'm just trying to give some examples of how AI systems in imaging is creating wonders. Now, in dermatological level classification, with skin cancer, they have been seeing better than a dermatologist. Then the FDA has approved screening of retina for diabetic retinopathy, and then because we require a lot of models there available, and then this is available for say screening, and after that, because that whole machine of fundoscopy can be fitted, and therefore this can give it a better diagnosis. Then radiology, obviously, we started with various X-ray images, and I can give you some of those examples where frontal and lateral images, and you can see here that all these diagnoses of X-ray images can be better done by AI system, and then you can see that average it is giving you 16 down to 72% accuracy, and these are the images which are being screened. How can I stop this? Okay. And these are the various AI system algorithms called chestnut, where I think it is again giving us if you can see these are all diagnoses done on X-ray chest, and then you can see the accuracy. It is as good as or better than a radiologist. Now the challenge was accepted by AI systems on detection of breast cancer by mammograms, because they have what is called as very finite images, and the images all look like. And then Google did it a mammogram, and then they realized that mammographic breast density, and then they found out that a computer vision, artificial vision, and neural network, and this is the curve, and then neural network was not only better than radiology resident, it was better than attending radiologist. And then international evaluation of AI system was done, and this is the paper published recently. It showed that mammography diagnosis is better with the AI system. Obviously, all these systems are there to help radiologists. Now, what you can do in corona? Now, same thing is followed. That patient walks in, patient gets scanned, and after that scanned image, they go to the cloud, and then they are diagnosed and they come back, and then the physician gets image and report. And therefore, this could be done better. Now, we are working on this system where you can see AI3 model, normal 100, pneumonia 53, and non-COVID pneumonia 200. And this is the details of the statistics, which show that the diagnosis of a corona pneumonia can be done better. And then we have opacity predictions, accuracy, and this whole accuracy is more than 90%. And what we are doing is we are progressively following these images. Let's suppose the patient comes on the first visit, and then here is some small shadow which is non-conspicuous, and then we can follow that, and then we can subsequently we can find out that this can be done better. Now there was another paper available on radiology about CT, where they did a double-blind clinical control trial of RT-PCR versus positive CT, and then these are the images, and then they were able to find out that sensitivity of chest CT with an AI system was far better, 97%. And I think this one has to come fast. Now the problem of CT or radiological X-ray is we are not happy that they are diagnosing better. Now we need to find out that are they diagnosing before the radiologist diagnosis. Therefore, I have been discussing with Mr. Ajit Deshpande that how we can do better, because that is one. Suppose let us say pleural thickening or maybe pleural say or something which is better and before, and even if it is diagnosed 1 day or 2 days before, then the management protocol can change and then the patient can be served better. We had one webinar on this guy working in India where he is working on AI systems in say CT scan, Dr. Sachin Sharma, and then he was able to find out that the pleural thickening and what you called as some sort of pneumonia at the collapse lung can be done. And then he used say right hyperplane scenario, and then this I took just a screenshot from his talk. Now most important, epidemiology, because are able to diagnose how the disease is going to spread. And Google's DeepMind was working on that. But then the most important addition that was done by AI, by a company called Blue Dot. And then this Blue Dot, they were able to predict where the disease is going to spread. What they did is they followed all travels doing across. And then once all these travels are there, and then all flights going out of Wuhan, they're able to see, and then they're able to find out what exactly happens.
Fast that's going to happen, and what we're going to do about it.
Yes, Imran, please mute yourself.
Artificial intelligence play a vital part in providing some answers and maybe even improving the outcome. AI had an important role in the initial understanding of this outbreak. Canadian specialist Blue Dot deals with global epidemic intelligence and identified very early on that something was amiss through a combination of medical and airline data.
We were one of the first groups in the world that identified this outbreak. This was back actually on New Year's Eve day, the morning of December 31st. The machine learning algorithms that we've developed had picked up information in Chinese of a pneumonia, wasn't known to be a coronavirus, of unknown cause, centered around this market in Wuhan. When it was presented to our team, we recognized that there were parallels to the SARS outbreak 17 years earlier. So we knew immediately that there were some historic parallels here and that this outbreak really warranted our attention.
And this is where the human scientists were needed.
AI can alert, but can't yet do the investigation to say what's really occurring.
Detecting an outbreak is really just the first step. There are multiple other things that need to happen. Ultimately, we need to determine what kinds of risks does this pose? Is it likely to spread? If it's going to spread, where might it go? What kind of consequences might occur from that spread? And then ultimately, we have to get that information into the hands of people who can then be empowered with that information to take the appropriate actions.
It's not just about tracking, though. The dream is that one day AI might be able to come through a combination of medical and airline data.
We were one of the first groups in the world that identified this outbreak. This was back actually on New Year's Eve day, the morning of December 31st. The machine learning algorithms that we developed had picked up information in Chinese of a pneumonia outbreak, 17.
And this is where
Detected risks does this pose? Is it what kind of consequences might occur from that spread? And then ultimately we have to get that information into the hands of people who can then be empowered with that information.
tracking though. The dream is that one day AI might be able to conjure up necessary vaccines on the
So the Blue Dot company has been able to find out exactly where the disease is going to spread. I think this is one of the biggest advantage of AI system in tracking pandemics. So other thing which I just wanted to show is as in imaging, where we are doing a lot of things in endoscopy, like in capsule endoscopy, where you take a capsule and it is like a fantastic voyage. And then camera sends you images while it travels in the small bowel, and then an AI system can diagnose exactly where it is going and what is the diagnosis available. So it is helping us because there are several images available, and this is beyond human intelligence to diagnose. And therefore, with an AI systems, with the hidden layers, we are able to find out and diagnose. And I think you can see the efficacy is 98%. Now, AI systems are working in pathology because it's easy. I'm just trying to give some few examples where AI system has been found to be useful. Then one of the things where AI system can help in corona is identifying new drugs and identifying how they are useful. Now there are several examples earlier that Pfizer was using ivermectin for immuno-oncology drugs. Sanofi was using for AI system for the metabolic drug therapy, and then Genentech was using for say cancer. So there are various things available, and what is required is all these AI systems are going to find out which drug is useful, and therefore which drug is useful. Now
is that one day AI might be able to conjure up necessary
now is a company called
vaccines
where they went to all the drugs
deal with
available,
new
all molecules
challenges.
available,
The
which are
latter
working
being something
on
that
say
demonstrates AI in
infections,
London
rheumatoid
is already
arthritis,
leading the way
and then
on.
they come to conclusion.
This company uses AI to better understand the mechanism of disease, correlating data on illnesses, drugs, and outcomes, and providing more information than any human being could ever come up with. And in this case, a potential lead. What are we looking at here?
This is a demonstration of our algorithm processing documents in real time, reading the abstracts of scientific publications to do with coronavirus, and extracting relationships between key biological concepts that we would care about to carry out drug discovery.
At this point, we're just a few months into an outbreak that could really, really grow. How meaningful do you think this data is so far?
There's a huge amount of information being published. We're not just putting out coronavirus information, but we're merging it with a lot of existing publications on microbiome biology. Our algorithms reason over biology at multiple layers, from the nano world of proteins interacting on our cells, through this maze of biological processes, up to human-defined definitions of diseases.
It's very early days for the process, but it is suggesting what might be worth further investigation. Now, a lot of people are looking at virals, antivirals, and how they might potentially, treat the disease. We looked at it from a completely different way. We said, what are the other types of approved drugs that might inhibit the progression of that disease in the body? So we surfaced a number of drugs, and then we did some experimentation based on that and further research. And then we came up with this one drug that we think is best suited. It has both anti-inflammatory properties as well as the ability to stop what's called endocytosis, which is what enables the virus to enter the lungs, which is the most potentially dangerous outcome of the coronavirus. The company stresses this is only conjecture, and although the drug in question is approved for use in rheumatoid arthritis, clinical trials and full scientific evidence would be needed before it could even come close to being used for this purpose.
So I think this is one of the good thing to happen in AI with that they screen all the drugs, and then there were two protein targets as AP2 called as associated protein kinase and cyclin G associated kinase GAK. And then the one drug which was doing all that by screening several drugs by AI, that is called baricitinib. And then this baricitinib is a suggestion because at the end you need to do a in vitro trial. But the advantage is the drug is already in market, therefore it's only for the another use, and then it can come very fast. And therefore we can do, in addition, we can do a lot of biological data mining by doing an AI to find out what methods are available, what are the drugs available, and how they can be go down. And no, hello, would you unmute yourself?
Hello. Hello, Palu.
And therefore, this is all biological data mining, which is done like a benevolent. And then we go into several ways and then find out which drug is useful. And then there are several things that are available by a system approaching of repurposing drugs. I think aim is same to find out which drugs are useful so that they can be directly used. AI system can be used in ICUs for remote monitoring because we can do monitoring of all ventilators, and they can all the data is available on mobile.
Participants, please unmute yourself. Participants, please unmute yourself.
Hello.
Hello, Pallu.
Hello. Hello.
Hello.
Participants, please mute yourself.
Mute yourself, sir.
Hello.
You can't mute everybody.
Hello, Mona.
Hello.
Hello, Nagesh ji. Please, sir, mute yourself.
Dare.
Daye.
Host has a mute all.
Mute yourself.
Yes.
Palu. Hello.
Host can do that, sir.
Yes, I can.
Hello.
Open to please.
Done.
Please continue, sir. Hello.
Hello, sir.
Hello.
Yes, sir. We can hear you, sir. Continue, please.
So I was talking about ventilator management because all of them, once they become serious, they get intubated and they require ventilators. And it's very risky for everybody to go inside. You have to go into PPE kit. Therefore, remote management of ventilators where whole thing is available outside. And once all those physical parameters of ventilator accesses are available outside, and we can develop an AI system to find out and diagnose and can help you out. So this is the real-time monitoring useful for corona epidemic, and I think that is one thing which is now coming in big way. So other thing where say AI can help is in vaccine. Now everybody knows that Oxford vaccine is being manufactured in Serum Institute. There are at least 25 various vaccine projects going on, and as I told you, the best thing that is happening is the vaccine is protecting. Now while the vaccine is coming, what is required is whether that Indian genomic mutations are available which can be say in that vaccine, otherwise that vaccine will not protect us, and therefore AI system can just find out that how all these vaccines all these are, whether they are connected. Now, the coronavirus which came from Wuhan, which was given, then the fragment, this is the fragment, GFQPT, NGY, GYPO. And therefore, once this is available, an AI system can find out, that immunologists can find out that which vaccine will be directed towards this fragment. And then machine learning model can answer that is better. And then we have somebody called as Maria, MSc analyzer with recurrent integrated architecture, where they are able to create an AI model where all these say components can be found out. Now this is how, now what they are doing is not, they are not just taking to the viral part, but instead they are creating some modulation where we can set an information inside and it can modify the whole virus.
Vaccine rapid response platforms. It involves high-tech methods that have the potential to shave years off of development time. Ideally, they'd offer protection while an epidemic was still spreading, instead of years later. Within weeks of the world learning about the Wuhan outbreak, Chinese scientists uploaded the novel coronavirus's genetic sequence to a public database. It allowed teams around the world to start designing a vaccine. Traditional methods require an actual sample of the virus. Typically, scientists inactivate a virus using special chemicals before it's put into a vaccine. When the inactivated or weakened virus is injected into the body, the immune system recognizes it as a foreign invader or an antigen. Vaccines use antigens to prime the body to protect against a particular virus. But vaccines developed with rapid response platforms work differently. Rather than directly injecting antigens into the body, these types of vaccines typically send instructions to cells in the body. It gets the cells to produce antigen proteins that are specific to the virus it's designed to defeat. These instructions are in the form of RNA or DNA, the molecules that contain the code for building proteins. Scientists say this process cuts down on development time because they don't have to grow the whole virus. Plus, once scientists identify and create the instructions for one virus, they can tweak those instructions to make a vaccine for a similar virus.
So think of the backbone as a set player, and the new virus sequence of our target, like from the new coronavirus, that sequence that we design in, think of it as a new cassette tape. So you can just slot it in.
You can slot in new virus antigens.
Melanie Sawville is the Director of Vaccine Research and Development at the Coalition for Epidemic Preparedness. CEPI is a global partnership that was launched at Davos in 2017.
We were actually formed specifically to look at this type of situation.
In this situation, the emergence of a new coronavirus, CEPI is funding several teams from around the world that Sawville says are each independently working from the platform model.
The sort of technologies that we are looking at, some of which are really quite pioneering, can really move very quickly.
3 of the candidates are in a category called nucleic acid vaccines. One of those candidates is Moderna, which is working with the NIH. They're developing a vaccine on a platform that uses a part of the virus's genetic code called messenger RNA, or mRNA. So again, unlike the conventional approach, with mRNA vaccine platforms, it's our own body cells, rather than lab techs, that produce the antigen proteins that are like the ones made by the coronavirus.
Your immune system then will be stimulated and develop antibodies to the virus, so that when you see it again, it can immediately recognize the virus and prevent you from becoming sick.
More and more people are becoming sick from the novel coronavirus.
Now let us go now to how can AI system help in clinical management, because that is one thing which is more important. Because with the AI ability to think like humans, but on the larger scale, faster, without getting bored and tired, the possibilities of AI applications are enormous. They can help in critical thinking. Now, there are 3 challenges that we have. One is how to fasten the transmission curve, and then does the climate have a role to play, because we were all worried. And then how can the most important thing where AI can develop and help is when the lesser data is available, how we can extrapolate. And now let us go one by one, because there are a lot of data coming, and one of the data which was coming, which I got interested, was a cytokine storm. That when the patient is dying, they are dying not because of virus, it's because of immune response, and that creates so much amount of cytokine production, and you have what's called IL-6, alpha, say IL-8, IL-10, and therefore these were producing, say, the problems. Now I did my PhD in tumor immunology and work on interferon, and therefore I was all the time following what is happening in IL. And then suddenly there was a paper about cytokine storm, and then an IL-6 inhibitor called tocilizumab can be useful. And therefore I wrote to them, and then incidentally I just put it on LinkedIn that a cytokine storm can be prevented. And I was given to understand that they're already using it. So I'm just trying to give you several papers, and this is a knowledge explosion, because ivermectin, which is used in filariasis, can be used. And then there is a lot of, discussion about hydroxychloroquine vis-a-vis remdesivir. And then hydroxychloroquine we are following in India, and we are the government of India and ICMR guidelines. We are going to all doctors. Now it's not safe in cardiac patients, but then there were several papers available on hydroxychloroquine, which is not safe. And I think that one was taken care. There are a lot of some political background, and subsequently we are still trying to use, because all our patients, all our doctors who are on hydroxychloroquine are getting protected. Then suddenly there was one paper about what is happening, because it's not a virus, it's a bacteria, and it's producing because of thrombosis. Because some of those patients, they were presenting as a stroke. Stroke means the blood clot is going in the brain, or they can produce a myocardial infarct. And therefore, this whole thing was used, and now all these knowledge is available and being used, and we are using antithrombolytic agents. Then obviously remdesivir, which was coming in big way, and then I think the company has permitted India to manufacture. There are 700 papers on their 5 days enough, and then trial of various drugs. And then there was one paper about AI-based approach of physicians, say diagnosing AI, and I don't know how AI can just go through symptoms. So why I was trying to find out how this knowledge explosion can be used, and then we thought of what is being done in IBM Watson. And IBM Watson was finding out, and then it was diagnosing cancer better in 99%, but somehow it was withdrawn. And there were several success stories of IBM Watson, which is what is called as digitizing and diagnosing and whole cognitive domain analysis was done. And there are various results available, and some subsequently I think we were not able to do much better because IBM Watson withdrawn. Now based on this experience, I want to use an AI system to give what is called as a cluster-based analysis. Now we have several papers available, therefore a cognitive domain analysis is done. What I want is we need to classify all these patients on clinical picture, radiology, then serum ferritin, procalcitonin, pro-BNP, interleukin, and then we can have a multiple combinations of these patients, and then clusters, and we find out a cognitive domain analysis and which cluster, which one is used. This whole thing requires an AI system, and then we monitor, and then outcome, and then outcome we know morbidity, mortality, and then this could be given say through machine learning upgrade, and therefore we can have a real-time management of patient. So my suggestion was, unless we say do out-of-box thinking, that all these papers coming, all these innovations coming, we are not able to exactly use, and that's why we should carry an AI-based model, that we should need to network all clinical data across the globe. I think Europe, US, everything is there, they are connected. And then we require a big data management system to identify, and then cognitive domain analysis of this infodemic. And then we have what's called the real-time dynamic outcome of all interventions. Sometimes all these data may not be big, and therefore people have micro successes, and they don't want to post, and therefore we need to use AI system to extrapolate all these micro successes, because the sample size is small, and therefore once this comes, the whole thing is available for all legal establishments across the globe, and therefore can help clinician to make a mature opinion. I think this is one which I want to follow, and to suggest that a networking has to be done. And the problem with India is all our data is on paper. Therefore, we can neither analyze it better, because all those doctors who are managing patients are busy because they are getting more patients. So I suggested that we should digitize this Indian case records. And I again put it on LinkedIn. I wrote a letter to TCS, Government of India, and ICMR, so that it should be done under CSR scheme of all these computer companies, so that we have a data available of the successes or failure in the cupboards, and therefore these data can be used, and then we can classify and extrapolate the success. So AI system can be used. Say these are the various things which I narrated: early detection, monitoring. Other thing is contact tracing, which we did, and then projection of the cases and development of the. Now, while we want to diagnose, we need to think out of box. Now we have seen breathomics can be done. So why not diagnose corona by cough? And this is one of the very intelligent approach of AI system, that they were just doing an app where the patient has to cough, and they were able to find out exactly the physical parameters to identify that cough, and then it goes into a typical AI pathway, and then diagnose, and then with the hidden layer and drop out, and at the end they were, if you can see, the just 2-minute cough, they were able to identify 98.58% with the specificity of 97.24%. So I think this is one of the brilliant area, that just cough in your mobile app, and then upload, and then the sound of a cough, because the sound has a physical parameters with amplitude, with a wavelength, and this could be done and find out, because this is something which is very useful. I hope you all know there is one gadget available for security. Somebody was observing that when a thief enters your home, a dog in your home barks in different frequency, a clinical observation. And therefore they created a gadget which can be hung on a dog's neck, and the moment the thief enters, the dog barks and it is identified, and then directly the dog's system informs police as well as the owner. So I think simple things. So on similar basis, I think diagnosing with a cough, I think better. So we are using corona intelligence for machine learning, and then how to track. So tracking, everybody knows face recognition, and then tracking patient with the face recognition. Now everybody knows about Facebook or Google Photo, where Google classifies your photos, and on the basis of face. So facial recognition technology can do a following of the patient. At the end, I just want to present that what we can do is being safe. And being safe, we want to find out whether some system can help you and help the doctors for screening. And I have been working for last 4 years on this eye doctor, that is intelligent drug dispensing ATM, based on symptom-based algorithm. Here it has 3 parts. That once you sit, it takes your all parameters and then asks you questions. And depending upon the severity, it asks you too many questions. And then we have developed an algorithm for, say, ENT, because most of the corona patients would come with ENT. And this can be used for screening and diagnosing, say, corona out of cough, because only 1% of patient of cough or dry cough who come with breathlessness can have corona. And this machine, which called as eye doctor, is a pulse oximeter, which will measure your oxygen saturation, and it can measure and say help you to go through the algorithms. And therefore, if the patient is non-corona, then it can give you intelligent diagnosis, and the drug can be directly given. Now it can generate a prescription, and then the prescription can be given to pharmacist, and then they can issue the drug. So I think this is the one where the only machine can help you, and then all the doctors are saved because they are safety. We can use AI system in Ayurveda because Ayurveda thinks of entirely different. So I'm for Ayurveda, but then we need to find out whether they can put that whole symptoms of corona in their say classical format. They have dosha, agni, dhatu, mala, indriya, manas, and atma, and then based on that we can have clusters of Ayurveda, and we can fit in corona, COVID, with various stages of progress of the disease, and then we can find out, and we can do a cognitive analysis of sahitas and opinion of expert and give intervention, and then we can monitor those patients with the modern medicine and outcome. And the moment we know outcome, then we can, with the machine learning, it can help. I think this is one of the model which I suggested for say Ayurvedic treatment of corona. So I hope that I sensitize everybody on how AI can help you to diagnose, to track, to predict, to spread, and clinically diagnose, and we can do data mining and everything of corona knowledge available, which is coming into say as infodemic. And this data, big data is available, and I think AI can help you at all. But as Bill Gates has said, we have never thought that all AI systems, how that can be better used in all pandemics. I think this is an opportunity for us to see that AI system can be used for pandemic, and we need to, everybody of us need to work towards having a better solutions for pandemic. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for such an informative session. You have covered a lot of aspects of AI, how we can use AI for forecast diagnosis, even in COVID-19. You have also covered the eye doctor concept, which is very interesting. Thank you very much, sir. Now the question answer session. So the first question is, how AI can be used in diabetes?
In diabetes?
Yes, sir.
Okay. AI can be used in diabetics first by monitoring that. We can have a variable technology available, because nowadays we have become a capital of diabetes in world, and then there are a lot of people coming and working on that. There is one company called Smith.ig, where they are working on monitoring of diabetes and lifestyle disorders. So in diabetes, the AI can do what is called as a constant monitoring. So what we are interested, I can give a couple of examples. First, it can diagnose and predict diabetic retinopathy, because diabetic retinopathy is one thing which is going to be problematic for all uncontrolled diabetics. So I told you about the image handling, and then machines are available where they can diagnose, screen and diagnose diabetic retinopathy before it becomes complicated. We can, a variable technology is available to find out how the drugs are being given. Now, so we can have an AI system to monitor whether you are taking drugs. Now we have what is called as a magic pill, so which is connected by say mobile, that you need to open that box. If you don't open that box, that means you have forgotten to take the drug, and then through the system they get a message that you have forgotten. Because in diabetics, it's very important that they take the drug normally. You can even use the AI system for say diagnosing the neuropathy, because this is something which people don't understand. that I want all of this. This could be a very useful starter for you to find out a wearable technology to identify the what is called as velocity of nerve conduction. And this is not done anywhere in world. So I want all my students of MIT to listen carefully that you can have a wearable technology. This is something called as a sural nerve, which is very superficial. And you can have two gadgets, one above, one below, and then you can just release a small current of a microvolts and to measure the nerve velocity. And if you're able to measure a nerve velocity, it can monitor, and then it can diagnose far before a diabetic neuropathy. I think diabetes is something where several things are available, and maybe I need to have more time to talk because I think that will take a lot of time. Thank you.
Yes, sir. And the next question is, what is the latest version of AI used in medical?
What do you mean by version?
Latest technology.
Now, we are either using deep learning, machine learning. I think actually all these models are available. There's something called the TensorFlow, which is available on Google. And I think if you go to Google, there are several models of AI system available. They are available free. I think this is something. Can I ask Ajit to answer? Would you unmute Ajit Deshpande? Ajit?
Yeah, I'm there, sir. Yeah, I'm there.
Please, what are the new AIs?
I think you answered it correctly. So what people are currently using is coming from, say, IBM, Google of the world. And there are several researchers who have contributed to the TensorFlow. And you explained the meaning of explainable AI. So this is most latest one. And for machine learning, deep learning, people are definitely using something like TensorFlow based Keras. IBM Watson has put everything on the cloud where you can use those models and train on your data. But the most important thing is, how do you train the models on your data, and what is the problem you are trying to solve? So that would make it more latest technology, I guess.
Ajit, would you just add something about what you are doing in RISES in AI for X-ray chest? Because I thought you are the better guy to explain.
Sure, sure. Yeah. So at RISES Analytics Solutions, we are a startup, and what we do is we are trying to help the doctors like Dr. Jamkar and the frontline doctors to relieve their stress. What we do is we take the input from the medical imaging data. It could be your X-ray, it could be your CT scan. We take it in DICOM format. We analyze it, and we do a couple of things on it. Like we are able to mark the bounding box precisely on the area. We are able to do the automated report. I think Jamkar sir has already shown that. And the difference analysis between two visits, which exactly maps on the medical protocol. For COVID also, there is a medical protocol. It maps on that. And third thing is basically to predict what will be the recovery rate, the mortality rate for that particular patient and of a group of patients. So that's what people are looking for. It's completely deep learning based AI driven system.
Thank you, Ajit.
Yeah, thanks.
Jamkar sir, if you find it correct, please stop sharing the screen so that we can have the complete video. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Shall I start?
So I just want to again retaliate.
I have a question.
All my talk, all references will be available on my website, and I want you to visit, and maybe you can add additional references because we need to create a database of all references available for AI in Corona.
Excuse me, sir. Hello? Sir.
Yeah.
A really important question for you. See, I'm Siddharth Chaudhary, and I have created a web app which can be used by radiologists for detecting pneumonia and as well as diabetic retinopathy. I'm only struggling to get access to more and more data from the hospitals to make it better. So could you please tell me how do I get access to more data, make it more better? Like I've created that web app, that platform, and working on the hosting side as of now.
Do you want data of COVID or pneumonia? Simple pneumonia.
Pneumonia and diabetic retinopathy. That's it.
Diabetic retinopathy.
Yeah, both.
Okay, just send me an email. I will connect with one of my ophthalmologist friend. He can give data of retinopathy.
Fine. Okay. Fine.
And about pneumonia, I think it's very common. Maybe Ajit, can you give some images?
Yeah, sure.
You have gone through our data. Both emails are there.
All right.
And we'll be more than happy to help you. No problem.
Yeah, sure. I will. Actually, I've already connected to Ajit Deshpande previously. He was busy, so he couldn't respond to my request. But probably we can look forward to this.
Okay. I got one of my student in 7 Hills Hospital. Just send me an WhatsApp on my number, and I'll send you a couple of images of say COVID pneumonia.
All right.
But then it will be on WhatsApp. It will be DICOM.
Okay. May I just know how am I supposed to get your number?
937.
Just a minute. 937
101
101
8208.
8208. 937 101 8208.
And you go to my website. My number is there on Arun Zamkar.
All right. Thank you. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you, sir. I must mention my deep sense of appreciation to Dr. Jamkar, sir, for giving an excellent coverage on scope of AI system in corona pandemic. I wish to express my sincere gratitude to Professor Dr. Mangesh Karat, sir, Executive President, MIT ADT University, for inspiring us. I am also very grateful to our Principal, sir, Professor Dr. Kishore Ravande, for providing encouragement and support. I am very grateful to Professor Dr. Virendra Shetty, sir, for giving me an opportunity, continuous support and guidance to coordinate this webinar. I thank to all the participants for their active participation in this webinar. I also would like to acknowledge my gratitude to all faculty members for their support. And last but not the least, I would like to thank Mr. Rupesh Sinha sir and his team for technical support. Thank you all for making this webinar successful with your contribution. Thank you once again.
Hello.
Thank you, sir.
Madam, thanks for Ajit Deshpande, sir. Please add.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you very much, sir. Ajit Deshpande, sir,
You're
for
welcome.
yes, sir, for your contribution and giving us information, sir. Thank you, sir.
So I need to thank Ajit because I use some of the beautiful slides that he had, and I try to convince how AI is useful in early diagnosis of COVID pneumonia.
My pleasure. Thanks.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.